Hi, folks. So I'm just going to go over a quick overview of the week. Oh, no, looks like my computer froze. Do, 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 do. Okay, there we go. So on Monday, we did this dynamic nature of natural capital. So we click on this. Oh, sorry, it's being so slow. Okay, so we discussed some age-sex pyramids, which we did last week. So I can share that with you right quick. Should be this one. Okay, so we had population pyramids from countries all over the world. You were supposed to create one for the country that you chose. And then you have to sort them based on their characteristics. So you'll notice that they have like a similar sort of shape and appearance. So we kind of see these ones have a smaller base and a wider middle, right? Small base, wider middle. This one has more of a classic triangle shape. And this one's more like just a column, like kind of even edges, right? Not quite a triangle. So here's sort of the basic overview. We have our first group, which are the developing countries. They have that really wide base at the bottom and then smaller at the top. So we have a pretty high birth rate and a high death rate here. These are generally less economically developed. And then you kind of have lots and lots of children. Perhaps there's lots of childhood mortality, etc. This is going to be stage 1 and stage 2 of the demographic transition model. The intermediary group is sort of more like kind of more like a column. Not a big difference in size between any of the age groups. Maybe a little bit more balance between birth rate and death rate. Generally, these are more economically developed, but you could have some sort of intermediary places, right? Mexico is still developing. Philippines still developing. So these are rather consistent. The population should stay about the same through time, not really grow any bigger or shrink. And then our last example was sort of like Spain and South Korea here. We see a sort of an inverted shape. So we have a smaller base and a wider top or wider middle. So in this case, we have a higher, we're going to have a higher death rate than birth rate, actually. So you're actually not really replacing people in the population. So these folks will get older, but there's going to be fewer and fewer babies to replace them. So the big concern here is that as these folks retire, the workforce is going to be way smaller. There's not going to be enough people to do all those jobs. Less people to work, and we're going to slow down overall. These are mostly MEDCs, and a lot of them are generally smaller countries that are really developed, and it's going to be stage 5 of the demographic transition model. We also looked back at this change in value of natural resources. So when we say dynamic nature of natural capital, we just means that that value changes through time. So we just kind of shared our results or responses from this video. So if you haven't watched this video down here, part 3, you should definitely do that. Pretty cool video about Utah, really close to VVS actually. If you were on David Smith's On the Edge field trip, you actually went very close to this area. So maybe it looks familiar. And then there's a few questions to go along with that video. And then on Monday, we introduced sort of our big task for this week, which is this population policies case study. So you can look down at part 3 here. If you click this Google Doc, it will open up some details. But basically, each student should select a country from around the world. Here's the countries that we have covered. You should choose a country that is not on this list, but you can choose any country that you'd like. Actually, I'll say if you want to choose one that's on this list too, you can. So if you want to do one here that someone else did, that's okay. You can do it too. You're going to do the research the following. You're going to find 3 specific actions that the country has done to change its population. These might be policies, they might be laws, they might be taxes. You should describe why the country is changing its population. Are they trying to increase or decrease their population? So are they pro-natalist? Are they trying to create more babies? Or are they anti-natalist, trying to create fewer babies? Natal just refers to babies. So pro-natalist, trying to have more babies. You should find a couple images that relate to the policies. Maybe they're posters to try to encourage people to have fewer babies or more babies, etc. You should find population pyramids from before and after the action was taken. You can actually just Google population pyramids. There you go, populationpyramid.net. This site's pretty good. It's got a bunch of different countries, and then you actually can choose which year to do as well. So we can just look at Afghanistan. There you go. And then you can change the year and actually see how it changes through time. So you might find a pyramid for before your policies were enacted, and then a pyramid for after they were enacted to see if there's any difference. So populationpyramid.net, I'll just paste that link into the classroom. You should mention any cultural, historical, religious, social, political, economic factors. You might not have all of these factors, but you'll definitely have some of them, right? So are there economic factors related to these policies? Are they trying to have fewer babies to boost the economy, or more babies to increase the economy? Are there religious factors involved, social or political factors, etc.? So you probably won't have all, but you'll likely have at least a couple. And then finally, you should discuss where on the demographic transition model your country falls and give evidence to support this. So that evidence likely will just be those population pyramids. We'll cover this on Thursday. So if you go over to Thursday's class, you'll click this little link here and it will bring you over here. Thursday's class, this lecture down here, demographic transition model, is where you'll find out about the 5 stages. You can actually see it still right behind me. So you'll identify which stage your country is in. And then you'll notice there's also the shapes of the pyramids, right? We have our triangle shape over here. We have that kind of traditional column, and then the inverted triangle for South Korea, Spain, those types of countries. So which stage is it in? And then you'll just compile that all into a slideshow. You could do a Prezi, you could do a Word document if you want. I'll just quickly scroll through this so you get an idea. Serena studied India. So some reasons that India had to change its population. It's predicted to be one of the most populous countries in the world. And they think that it might actually overtake China sometime in a few years, few decades. So India is trying to lower its population as an anti-natalist country, trying to encourage lower birth rates. And they're worried about trying to support all of those people. So here's just some actions that they've taken to reduce their population. They've encouraged couples to have smaller families, saying it's an act of patriotism. They've actually encouraged female sterilizations. We are not sure if it's actually enforced. Let's see, policies, rewards for those who have only 2 children, that type of thing. And then we see some population pyramids. So here we are in 1989, before a lot of those policies. And then we can see 2019 over here. So a dramatic change in the policies, right? We were in stage 2 over here, whereas now they're kind of more in stage 3. And they're predicted to kind of continue with that trend into the future. And then you mentioned some factors related to these policies, economic factors and influence, as well as education. Maybe religion is less of an impact here. And then once again, the location on the demographic transition model. As you remember from the lecture on the model, the crude death rate tends to drop before the birth rate. So we actually see that here. Death rate is dropping significantly in 1920. And then the birth rate starts to fall down sort of a little bit later. So stage 2 over here, moving into stage 3 today. So just something like that for your chosen country. Again, you can choose any country you want on this list or any country not on this list. Maybe don't choose India since I just showed you all the answers for India. And then the last task is this video on Malthusian theory. So Thomas Malthus was a guy from Britain a couple hundred years ago, and he had this idea that everyone was going to die because we reproduce really quickly, but we can't grow enough food. Obviously, everyone's not dead yet. So this video is basically about why Malthus was wrong. You should be familiar with his theory in general, and more importantly, limitations to that theory, why it wasn't quite accurate. And then after you watch that video, you can add a sticky note to this Jamboard down here. If you open that up, it looks like this. So you'll include something that you learned. You'll write down something that surprised you or something that you found interesting. Questions that you still have. And then your favorite joke that John Green tells. Arnold Schwarzenegger being mayor and saving us all was also my favorite joke. Pretty funny. Okay. And then today we shared a couple of these policies. We're going to share more of them next week. So no additional homework over the weekend. We do have a long break, a 3-day weekend. So we're not going to meet on Monday. I'll send out an email to try to find a better time that we can meet sometime next week. But no class Monday night. I'll be away. As always, shoot me an email if you have any questions. But best of luck.